If you've been scrolling through social media lately and seen alarming headlines about ICE targeting the worst of the worst for deportation, you might be wondering what this really means for you and your family. I know how scary these headlines can feel, especially when it's hard to tell what's actually changing and what's just fear spreading online. Today, we're going to break down exactly what's happening with immigration enforcement right now, separate the facts from the rumors, and give you the clear, reliable information you need to understand your situation. Let's get into it. So, what's really going on with these reports about ICE arrests and deportations? Over the past several months, you've probably seen news stories, social media posts, and maybe even messages from worried friends talking about immigration enforcement targeting dangerous criminals. The phrase, worst of the worst, has been used by government officials to describe a specific enforcement priority, and understandably, this kind of language creates a lot of anxiety in immigrant communities. But here's what you need to know right from the start. Immigration enforcement priorities and policies have not fundamentally changed the actual immigration laws that have been on the books for many years. Let me explain what that means in practical terms. United States immigration law, specifically the Immigration and Nationality Act, has always given immigration enforcement agencies like ICE the authority to arrest and deport individuals who are in the country without legal status or who have violated the terms of their visa or immigration status. This isn't new. What does change from time to time is how aggressively these existing laws are enforced and which groups of people are considered the highest priority for enforcement action. When officials talk about focusing on the worst of the worst, they're typically referring to an enforcement priority that targets individuals who have been convicted of serious crimes, particularly violent crimes, in addition to any immigration violations. This might include people convicted of offenses like assault, domestic violence, drug trafficking, weapons charges, or other serious felonies. The idea behind this priority system is to focus limited enforcement resources on individuals who are considered to pose a public safety threat. Now, here's where we need to be very clear about something important, because this is where a lot of confusion and misinformation starts spreading. Just because enforcement priorities focus on serious criminals doesn't mean that immigration enforcement only affects people with criminal records. Under current law, ICE has the legal authority to arrest and initiate deportation proceedings against any person who is in the United States without proper legal status or who has violated their visa conditions, regardless of whether they have a criminal record. This has always been true, and it remains true today. What the priority system means in practice is that people with serious criminal convictions are typically moved to the front of the line for enforcement action. They're actively sought out and targeted for arrest. But during enforcement operations, ICE officers may encounter other individuals who are also in violation of immigration law, and those individuals can be arrested as well, even if they weren't the original target of the operation. This is sometimes called collateral arrests, and it's a reality that has existed under multiple administrations with different political parties in power. Let me address some of the specific rumors and claims that have been circulating online, because I want you to have accurate information. One common claim you might have seen is that ICE is now allowed to arrest people in places that were previously considered safe, like schools, hospitals, or churches. The truth is more nuanced than the viral posts suggest. For many years, ICE has had internal policy guidelines about enforcement actions in what are called sensitive locations. These guidelines generally discouraged arrests in places like schools, medical facilities, places of worship, and certain other locations unless there were extraordinary circumstances. However, these were always policy guidelines, not laws passed by Congress. That means they can be changed by the executive branch without requiring new legislation. Different administrations have had different versions of these policies. Some administrations have had broader protections for sensitive locations, while others have narrowed these protections or emphasized that they're not absolute prohibitions. If you're concerned about the current policy, The best thing to do is check the official ICE website or consult with a licensed immigration attorney who stays updated on current enforcement policies. Another piece of misinformation I've seen spreading is the claim that certain visa categories or immigration statuses that were previously safe are no longer protected. Let me be absolutely clear about this. If you have valid legal status in the United States, whether that's a work visa, student visa, green card, or any other lawfully issued immigration status, that status continues to be valid as long as you comply with all the conditions and requirements. No executive order or policy change can simply invalidate a legal status that was properly granted to you. Your visa or green card represents a legal authorization that was issued under the authority of immigration law, and it remains valid according to its terms. What can put your legal status at risk? Violating the conditions of your status. For example, if you're on a student visa and you stop attending school, if you're on a work visa and you stop working for your sponsoring employer without authorization, or if you commit certain crimes that make you deportable under immigration law. These are the same rules that have always applied. No new policy changes these fundamental aspects of how immigration status works. Now let's talk about what you should actually be worried about versus what's just creating unnecessary panic. If you are in the United States without legal status, or if your previous legal status has expired and you haven't maintained or adjusted your status, then yes, you are technically subject to immigration enforcement under the law. This has always been true. The level of risk you face depends on many factors, including whether you have a criminal record, whether you've previously been ordered deported, and what the current enforcement priorities are. If you're in this situation, the most important thing you can do is consult with a qualified immigration attorney as soon as possible. There may be options available to you that you don't know about. Perhaps you're eligible to apply for a form of relief from deportation, or maybe there's a way to adjust your status or apply for protection. Every person's situation is different, and immigration law is extremely complex. What works for your friend or cousin might not work for you, and what you read in a Facebook group might not be accurate or applicable to your specific circumstances. For those of you who have legal status, the best protection you have is to maintain that status properly. Make sure you're complying with all the requirements of your visa or green card. Keep your address updated with USCIS if required. Don't overstay the authorized period. If you're on a work visa, make sure you're working only for authorized employers in authorized positions. If you're a permanent resident, avoid taking trips outside the United States that are so long they might be seen as abandoning your residence. And most importantly, avoid any criminal activity, because certain criminal convictions can make even a green card holder deportable. Speaking of green cards, this brings me to one of the most important points I want to make today. If you're currently in the United States on a temporary visa, whether that's a work visa, student visa, or any other non-immigrant status, you should seriously consider your long-term immigration strategy. Temporary visas are just that, temporary. They can expire, they can be denied for renewal, and policies can change that make it harder to extend or renew them. The most secure immigration status available, other than citizenship, is lawful permanent residence, which is what you have when you hold a green card. As a green card holder, you have much stronger protections. You're authorized to live and work in the United States permanently. You can't be denied entry to the country simply because of policy changes the way visa holders sometimes can be. And while green card holders can still be deported if they commit certain serious crimes or violate immigration law in other ways, they have more rights and protections in removal proceedings than people without legal status. But here's the thing. Even a green card isn't the ultimate protection. The strongest immigration status you can possibly have is United States citizenship. As a citizen, you cannot be deported, period. You have the right to vote. You can sponsor family members for immigration more easily. You can leave and return to the country freely without any concerns, and you're fully protected by all constitutional rights without any immigration-related limitations. If you've been a green card holder for the required time period, which is typically 5 years or 3 years if you're married to a U.S. citizen, you should seriously consider applying for citizenship through the naturalization process. Yes, there's an application fee. Yes, you have to study for a test. Yes, it takes time and effort. But the security and peace of mind that comes with citizenship is absolutely worth it. I've seen too many people with green cards who delayed applying for citizenship, and then something unexpected happened. A criminal charge, a long trip abroad that was questioned, or some other issue that put their status at risk. Don't let that be you. Now, I want to address the emotional toll that all this news and these headlines take on immigrant families. If you're watching this video, you might be feeling anxious, scared, or overwhelmed. Those feelings are completely valid and understandable. When you see news about immigration enforcement, when you hear about arrests and deportations, when you read alarming posts on social media, it's natural to worry about yourself and your loved ones. But I want you to understand something important. Living in constant fear is not a sustainable way to live, and in many cases, that fear is based on incomplete information or rumors rather than facts. That's why videos like this exist. My goal isn't to make you more afraid. My goal is to give you accurate, factual information so that you can understand what's really happening, what your actual risks are based on your specific situation, and what steps you can take to protect yourself and your family. The truth is that the vast majority of people who have legal immigration status and who comply with the requirements of that status are not at risk of deportation. If you're here on a valid visa, if you have a green card, if you've become a citizen, and if you're following the rules and not engaging in serious criminal activity, then you should not be living in constant fear. Yes, you should stay informed. Yes, you should be aware of any changes to policies or procedures. But you should not let fear control your life or prevent you from pursuing your dreams and building your future. For those who are in the United States without current legal status, I understand that your situation is more precarious and that the fear you feel is very real. If this is your situation, please consult with an immigration attorney. Don't try to navigate this alone based on advice from non-lawyers or information you found on the internet. Immigration law is one of the most complex areas of law, and the consequences of making a mistake can be life-changing. A qualified attorney can review your specific situation, tell you honestly what options you have, what risks you face, and what steps you should take. And please be careful about immigration fraud and notarios. There are people out there who will take your money and promise they can fix your immigration problems when they have no legal authority to do so. In the United States, only licensed attorneys or accredited representatives working for recognized organizations are authorized to provide immigration legal services. If someone who isn't a lawyer is offering to help you with immigration matters for a fee, that's likely immigration fraud, and it could make your situation much worse. Let me also say something about the bigger picture here. Immigration has always been a topic of intense political debate, and it probably always will be. Different people have different views about what immigration policy should look like. Administrations change, priorities shift, and there's constant discussion about potential new laws or policy changes. But here's what doesn't change quickly: the actual laws passed by Congress. Those laws can only be changed through the legislative process, which requires bills to pass both houses of Congress and be signed by the president. That process takes time, involves debate and negotiation, and doesn't happen overnight. When you see news about proposed legislation, executive orders being discussed, or policy changes being debated, remember that there's a difference between something being proposed or discussed and something actually becoming enforceable law. Always check whether what you're reading about is an actual change that has already happened and is currently in effect, or whether it's a proposal, a discussion, or speculation about what might happen in the future. The best sources for accurate, up-to-date information about immigration law and policy are official government websites. In the United States, that means websites like uscis.gov, which is the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services site, ice.gov for Immigration and Customs Enforcement information, and cbp.gov for Customs and Border Protection. These official sites will have current information about policies, procedures, forms, and requirements. Be skeptical of information you see on social media, in group chats, or from non-official sources, especially if it's alarming or dramatic. Always verify important information through official channels or with a qualified attorney. I also want to remind you that what we've discussed today is general information about immigration law and enforcement. This is not personal legal advice for your specific situation. Everyone's circumstances are different, and immigration law is full of exceptions, special cases, and complicated rules. If you need advice about your particular situation, you need to consult with a licensed immigration attorney who can review your specific facts and give you personalized guidance. Before we wrap up today, let me summarize the key points you should take away from this discussion. First, immigration laws themselves have not fundamentally changed, but enforcement priorities and policies can and do shift. Second, if you have valid legal status, maintain it properly by following all the rules and requirements. Third, understand that enforcement priorities focusing on serious criminals don't mean other immigration violations are ignored. Fourth, don't rely on social media rumors or viral posts for important immigration information. Always check official sources. Fifth, if you're eligible to upgrade your status to a green card or citizenship, seriously consider doing it for your long-term security. And finally, if you have any concerns about your immigration status or situation, consult with a qualified immigration attorney who can give you personalized advice. Immigration can feel overwhelming, especially with all the news and changes and uncertainty. But remember, you're not alone in this journey. Millions of people are navigating the same system, facing the same questions, and working toward the same dreams of security and opportunity for themselves and their families. The key is to stay informed with accurate information, follow the law, seek professional help when you need it, and not let fear prevent you from building the life you want. Closing. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope this video helped clear up some of the confusion and gave you a better understanding of what's really happening with immigration enforcement and what it means for you. If you found this information helpful, please consider subscribing to Immigration News Today so you never miss our updates on immigration news, policy changes, and practical guidance. Hit that notification bell so you'll be alerted whenever we post a new video with important information that could affect you and your family. And please, if you found this video valuable, click the like button to help others find this reliable information too. Share this video with your family members, friends, or anyone in your community who might be worried or confused about what they're seeing in the news. The best way to fight misinformation and fear is to spread accurate, trustworthy information to the people who need it most. Finally, leave a comment below and let me know what topics you'd like us to cover in future videos. What questions do you have? What immigration issues are you most concerned about? Your feedback helps us create content that addresses the real concerns and questions of our community. Remember, we're here to provide you with clear, honest, fact-based immigration information you can trust. Until next time, stay informed, stay safe, and take care of yourselves and your families.